Yeah. Okay.
Ready? Do I need a microphone? Do we have it? Do I need a microphone? Okay. I think we can start it. If people can find your seat. Hey, Renee, do I need a microphone or are we just live? You guys, do I need a microphone for you? For the live feed?
Oh, well, we're gonna pick up the room audio from the built-in system.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
okay, you got the microphone for those?
Yeah, my mic man just want to get the new mic. Yeah, that won't tell. I think my voice now heard. I don't know about anyone else.
Yeah, I can try, just they were trying to do live feed, so it may not carry the live feed as long as they. But,
So you want to get another mic?
yeah, you guys don't, you don't have a mic. Yeah, okay. Well, why don't we start, because I feel like, we're a little bit late, so why don't we start, and then, you want to welcome you?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Coach James Monroe. I'm the head football coach here at the Marvelous Reach / Lake Clifton, and I welcome everyone. I'm glad y'all are here to support us. I'm glad that you're here to be a part of this great opportunity, and I'm glad that you're here to help us move on to the next phase of building a new stadium. Something that we've been trying to build for the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm glad everybody's on page and on time and with us and to help us, because it's not really for us, it's for the students and the kids of Baltimore City. And the main thing about that, to always reach out to them, because when we reach out to them and make them successful, it makes Baltimore City more successful. And that's our job as coaches and mentors in the school system, because I've been doing it for 38 years. And that's one of my players right there. Right there. He's a successful player, a successful man and coach, and he come back and give back. So when you see things of that nature, you know your job is something that you can always say you're proud of. It's not about the rewards or the trophies. It's about what you turn young people into. And that's what we're doing now. And I thank everybody for coming, and we're going to move on with this meeting.
Right, thank you, Coach. All right, thanks everybody for being here. I'm Allison Perkins Cohen. I'm the Chief of Staff for City Schools, so I appreciate you all coming out. We are overdue to have this meeting. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. We are overdue to have this meeting. And we're overdue to have a field for Reach Field, so for Reach School. So we're here to give you an update on where we are. I think we are moving forward, so that's good. But there has been a little bit of some changes in the process along the way that have kind of slowed us down. But I think we're back on the right track now. So I'm going to get started here. Is there a clicker? Or on the computer. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so again, I'm Allison Perkins Cohen. I'm Chief of Staff for City Schools. I'm joined here by my friend Reggie Moore, the Director of Baltimore Rec and Parks, who's going to be speaking in a moment, and then Cindy Smith, who's our Executive Director of Facilities Planning. And I want to welcome, appreciate Councilwoman Ramos for being here. Thank you. This is working. Work for you guys? You can hear? Okay, great. So Councilwoman Ramos, thank you for being here to help have this conversation. So today we're going to give you an update on the project and kind of what to expect with the project in terms of specifications as well as timing, what the design process will look like. We're going to talk about the construction timeline and then various considerations, and then we'll answer questions from you all. Thank you, Reggie. So the project status. So there will be a new outdoor athletic space that we're going to build out here. One of the, this is going to be a partnership between City Schools and Rec and Parks. So that is a great thing because it makes us able to build a better facility than we would have been able to build if either Rec and Parks did it by themselves or City Schools. So we have a long-standing partnership on these types of projects. There are many, many fields like this that are shared kind of resources between City Schools and Rec and Parks, and then it's a benefit to the school community and it's a benefit to the broader community. So, so that's a great thing. One thing that has been a little bit of so we're going to start pretty soon. So the project will start the design procurement for the architectural engineering is going to start in March of this year. There have been a couple of things slowing this down. So one was, some of you may remember that there was a discussion of putting a field over by the Rita Church Rec Center, and that was, we made a lot of work on that process. Oh, sorry, there was a slide on this. Thank you. We had a lot of progress on that particular idea. So there was going to be a field over there. We did drawings for that. And that was, again, going to be a joint project with Rec and Parks. We did a lot of work there, and then there was a kind of shift to move the field over here. When the new mayor came in, there was a shift that wanted to do a project over in this area. So that kind of just made us have to start again in terms of the location, and so that slowed us down. The other thing that more recently we've been working on is the memorandum of understanding between City Schools and Rec and Parks to lay out all the aspects of a joint project. Who's building it, which is City Schools. Who's paying what? Who's got access to use the field at different times? Who's responsible for maintaining the field? All those things have to be worked out, and we've worked them out. We do have an agreement now that City Schools has signed. So we have signed, our Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Sanfelices, has signed the MOU. It is now going through the city process. So it has to go through the Board of Estimates, and it's going through the city process now. So we are going to move forward, as we said in the last slide, starting the design process. So City Schools is building this field. So we're going to start doing the design process, procuring the design process in March so that we can get it going because we know that we are behind. So we want to get this moving. I think you all know that the coach Monroe has been playing over at we've been playing over at the old field by the old Lake Clifton building. Morgan has bought that property, but we do have an MOU to have access to that field until December 2024. We are going to be working with them to try to extend that through spring of 2025, when we think the field will be ready for the fall of 2025. So we'll go through the timeline in a minute more deeply, but the new field and track will be ready in the fall of 2025. So we will have the MOU in place to with the existing field until it's ready. The portable locker rooms will also remain at the existing complex, and there has been an electrical problem that I just learned about that was not news to Cindy that we're working on solving. So there's electricity that needs to power the portable that's over there that we found out after the fact that BG cut it off because there was a problem with the old Lake Clifton building. And so we're in conversations with BG now to make sure that that doesn't happen in the middle of the season again next year. And then I think I'm turning it over to Reggie, is that right? Yes, to talk about the design pictures.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Reggie Moore, Executive Director of Baltimore City Rec and Parks. And I do have Edward Willingness here. He's our Deputy Director of Parks. So, as Allison has stated, we've been meeting with schools and trying to move this process forward. We're building a new turf field, an 8-lane regulated track. Additionally, it will have bleachers for up to 1,500 people, 3 storage units, a press box prefab structure integrated with bleachers with a PA system, and it will also have a perimeter fence. The projected budget for this is $3.4 million. So we are definitely excited. Again, in the initial, this first phase, we will run the conduit for the lights, the lights will not be installed in this current phase.
You're hoping that in the future we can have the money to maybe do that, but we don't have the resources to do lights now. We're putting the infrastructure in. So if the school or the community wants to help do fundraising for that, but we're putting the electrical in so that we can do it later, but we can't do it now.
And the next two slides is really, it's going to just show location, but while there's two locations that we're proposing, both of them are out in Clifton Park. But one of these is going to help decide this location will be the consultant that city schools hire, because it's about drainage, it's about flow as well, because we want to make sure that where we position these fields, as you can see, there's drainage issues throughout this park. So we want to make sure from a position standpoint that the field is properly situated where rain will never impact. And regardless if it's a turf field, and regardless that you have a rubberized track, you still don't want to sit in water. So the first location is basically if you walk out in front of the school, you'll walk directly to the stadium. It runs along Hartford Road. There are some challenges from residents that will be living across the streets that you will have the stadium directly in front of your home. Other things will be, we'll have to work with schools on the entranceway that connects. We'll have to put a drive because, of course, in any stadium, you got to be able to access that stadium for emergency vehicles. That's something that will be in that design. But what it does is it still leaves the remainder of the park open for green space as well. But one of the positives also is that you can use the contour of the amphitheater look of Hartford Road looking down into the stadium, so you can build into that hill to build the stadium seating. Now, the second location, I've been told many years ago there used to be a track in a field that was in this park. You were actually putting it back in the same location as before. As you can see, it will connect to St. Louis Drive, and that road is basically, again, for the emergency purposes. It will not be for any, through traffic. That will be used just for sporting events so that emergency vehicles can get there. One of the big challenges is this is the lowest part of the park. So one of the challenges is looking at the water table, looking at the water flow. The councilwoman knows, as I do, we have many challenges sometimes with Reed Church because of flooding of the water table that's here in this property. But as I stated earlier, one of the biggest keys here, while we want to show the two sites, when city schools hire this consultant, the consultant is going to advise us what is the best solution, because we understand there's going to be drainage that they're going to have to put in for either site, but then we got to look at how much infrastructure of drainage that needs to be put in to help us make that final decision. Yes, sir.
Site 2, I've been around it for 60 years almost. The drainage coming from off the hill, and that little park area where the little track at, the little football field at, where Dunbar used to practice that for years. It got a bad drainage system right there. Everything runs from the White House down, so it's usually a swamp there, and it stays there for a while. So that's why that probably would not be a good location, because we had to spend a lot of extra money for a drainage system just because of that.
And so you're talking about the site that we're looking at right now?
So, yes, the site we're looking at now, because when you come off the hill right there, that's where Dunbar used to practice years. And for years, you can't even walk that way when it starts raining hard, because it'd be 2-3 feet of water there. And the drainage coming from that old stadium coming down, if you ever go over there, look, it's a big drain right there. Most people don't see it because they don't get a chance to walk over there, but it's a big drain right there. So we would probably say, coming out the gym area, it's more level ground here, and might be less work to put a drainage system there than it will be down there. I mean, for people who live around this area, that will cost us a lot of extra money to put a drainage system over there. And then it might still cause a lot of damage when it starts to rain.
And that's definitely something we can look at, Coach. And one of the things, I'll tell you something we want to be really careful. What we don't want to do is to set a stadium in the middle of the green space and really divide the green space. So we definitely, I think, Cindy, we can look at the option coming out the gym. For me, are you talking about, I wonder if that's where we're proposing putting, because the basketball court is directly across the street, it's having to move on this side of the road. So I wonder if that's where you've seen that design, where the basketball court, is that where I think Coach is talking about? No?
It's where, if you ever come up here on Sunday, it's where on South East Square.
So this is close to where the soccer people play right now.
That's that first field, when they first started. They moved 2 more fields up. So there's more level ground. Like it's more level ground here and less drainage here because all that flow from that water comes from off St. Louis Drive. It comes right down there and stays there. You know, if we get snow, we get rain, water can be there for almost a week.
So it's basically shifted this.
Right here, where, yeah, maybe 50 to 75 yards over.
Okay.
It might be a lot better, and the ground is already level, so you wouldn't have to build it up. And it's not really moist over there when it rains, so it saves us a lot of money on the drainage system right there. And you still got the green space, but you got the green space from the state of to Hartford Road.
Yeah, now I see what you're saying. I thought it was more shifting more to the center. Okay.
Now, so when we come out the gym door, it'd be like right there.
Right.
It would be a lot better. And because this is where the soccer people, if you ever come up on Sundays, right? This is where they got the 2 games there. They got 1 game here, they set a never field here, and they set a never field up there. So they got 3 fields right there.
Right.
So that's where they basically play it now.
So it's really it's flipping the field to the other side of the road. Which,
I mean, it'd be a lot cheaper.
yeah, I mean that's kind of some of the things we want to hear too. So the city will have some ideas to speak of the figure will be designed. Yes, sir.
So, to me,
You want to give the mic to the
Mr. McCoy, speak to you. So to me, the most ideal place, to me, would be this way, not like that. Because this way, it'll all line up aesthetically. Look from Hartford Road, you look in, you'll see, because the school's going this way, you've already got the gym there, I mean, it's taking going this way, that's not taking no more green space, you get around at the level there, and it still leaves all that other open green space. But for future Clifton Park, Massey Park development. So when you see right here, you see how you see when you hit the flip this way, then you got railroad tracks back here. So it's not blocking any type of view or anything right here.
And I think one of the things we'll have to look at too is that when my landscape architect laid the field out here, he was looking at sign orientation as well. And so that's something I would have to ask him, like, is there a reason why you didn't run a parallel to the school? And it may not be a reason, but that's definitely, so that's 2 options that we can look at. We're not, that's why we're here. We want to hear the suggestions, ideally, because we want to put it in the right place. We don't want to deal with drainage issues or flooding. And 2, we want to build the most cost-effective facility.
And we want to have space to have, one of the reasons we moved it from Marina Church was because there wasn't enough space for a regulation size track. And that was important to our mayor, who's a track person. That's one of the reasons we moved it. So wherever we put it, we need to have a regulation size track.
So I know we got more questions, but what we want to do is at least get through the presentation. I think it would be helpful. Let Cindy go through the timeline, and then we can come back and have more questions. Everybody okay with that? Okay, Cindy.
Hi, everybody. I'm the executive director, planning, design, and construction. I know, really well. For high schools, yes. So just to go over the timeline real quick. So we already mentioned that we would be looking at the design procurement here, starting within the next couple weeks. It will take a few months to procure that architect and engineer, just because of getting the proposals in, having to evaluate them, and then making the design purchase order to get them started. We're anticipating 8 months to actually design it, so that would start in approximately June and run through, just into the next year a little bit. And then we have to procure the contractor to build it. So again, that's we have to solicit those drawings from the design, put them out for bid, allow bidders to bid it, and then issue that purchase order again. So then again, that's about a 3-month process for the boards, the different boards to have to approve that purchase order and contract. And then we anticipate 12 months to actually build it. There is a lot of underground, because it's a turf field, there is a lot of underground stormwater management that is required for a turf field. So we've got to get all that infrastructure in, as well as that lighting infrastructure. And then, the turf and the bleachers and things. So we are anticipating a 12-month construction period, which would get it up and running in the summer of 2025. So we're looking at being able to run fall sports on the field in 2025. So we did want to mention, because this is actually Rec and Parks property, right? Everything beyond the school itself is really Rec and Park property. So we do have a shared use agreement with Rec and Parks as far as who can use the fields when between the two entities. But we want to make sure that everybody understands that this is not the only site that we do that on. We actually have multiple sites across the city that we actually have those same kinds of agreements on. So, this is not our first time doing this. Yes.
Does the school have priority?
There's different priorities at different times of day and days of week. So it just depends.
That's not playing, that's not real play at all.
So there's times we worked with our athletic department to
Yes.
figure out times that make sense in terms of when practice needs to happen. So there are times
Games.
after school and games.
Yeah.
So that for times when students need to practice, when our young people need to practice, or when there are competitions, then we have priority. Other times during the weekends and so on, or after the practices or after the games, then Rec and Parks is
Yeah.
So
priority.
school time, anytime around school time.
Anytime
Yeah.
during the day, during school time, yes. So during the day through like practice and the
Okay.
competitions on the weekdays, and then there's a couple hour window in the mornings on Saturdays, in case there needs to be a Saturday practice. But then after those hours, then Rec and Parks has priority.
We definitely worked with our athletic directors, and we really thought through all those different times to make sure that it was agreeable to both entities and supporting the students that would use it. So we made sure that everything could be accommodated at the same time. There are multiple stakeholders involved in this, and so that's why this becomes such a big project and a big shared use thing, that we want to make sure that we're supporting all the users and everybody getting a chance to use this, because this is a community amenity for everybody to be able to get to use. But I just want to make sure I reiterate, we do this at multiple schools. Many of our high schools share different sites with Rec and Parks, so this isn't something that's new for us. We do have these agreements in place across the district for those kinds of shared uses. As you can see, many of our very competitive teams have those. So,
I'll just say one more thing on that, is that we have a principal here, a former principal who was from Ben
Yes.
Franklin, Chris Pataglia, who lived in one of these situations with a shared field, so might be able to help us with any questions about that. Sorry to put you on the spot. But then the other thing I was going to say is that in addition to these, then also, it's not exactly a shared use agreement, but Poly's field got renovated because of an agreement with an outside partner, Pipeline Soccer, who did in exchange for doing the renovation to their field, which we couldn't afford to do, so they did the turf, they replaced the turf field, which was dangerously in need of being replaced. They replaced it in exchange. The school gets the use, Poly and Western get the use for similar to this, like the times when the young people need to use it to practice, or the track or the field, and then there are other times when the Pipeline gets it for use for their young people. So it's very common that we make these arrangements, and it's a way to strategically use our resources to bring something better to the community.
it's actually, yep, questions?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I live in the community close to Homestead, Montebello, so I had a couple of questions. One, I don't know how many people live directly in the community, and if you do, if you know what is happening, the future state of the community, and some of the investments that are happening. So I wanted to ask the question of how you all are thinking about the long term, because we know Morgan's got that building, and we're grateful. We sought that out, we were one of the buildings in our heart, right? So, they have a long-term plan. That long-term plan will bring the ability for this commercial corridor in Harvard Road, which may not sound believable to you all today, but if Morgan does what they're supposed to do or they want to do, they're going to have a whole other campus here, which means that we could support actual businesses along Harvard Road that are interactive and people will come to, and other people's money too. Also, there's multi-million-dollar investment happening in Tivoli, and if you go down to Tivoli right now, there are no houses. That's the work of a decade to clear an area that has been a source of problem, right, to make it stabilize the community. So I want to ask how you are thinking about the long term and the big number of investments that are happening around, so that we're not creating something that takes away from what we're trying to create. I know, someone mentioned the view from houses, and that insignificant. But when you think about us getting ARPA funds to do to Bowling, getting the state, the federal government, and the city to invest into Bowling, to give us an eco-village. This is more than 4 or 5 to people and their community. It's the difference between bringing a community that has had a disinvestment and not enough people, kind of bringing economic growth and engine to the community, bringing a mixed-use, mixed-income community that can support so much of the future that will be here at the school. So I want to just ask a question, how are you thinking about that long-term view while you're stationing this need as well?
I was going to start, then we start. Yeah, so I think, one thing is that I think we too, like you, have been trying to really invest in underinvested communities. So this building is a product of that, and most of our 21st century investments. I know you did. Yeah. And so this community, the community of Chum, really made it happen. But that was the whole project has been, most of the 21st century buildings are in communities that have been historically disinvested. So if you look at the 21st century investments, that was very intentional to make sure that we were, most of them absorbed students from closing schools because they're underinvested in communities where the population had declined, and the reason that if their school was closing, that they should get first dibs on the new building. So that's where you see most of the 21st century investments. I think for the longer term, I think that's partly why we want to have a community to get input from community about where the field should go. In the end, things like whether we can build a field that will not be wet is going to be a big factor. So things like the water table is going to be a factor, but I think we heard a lot of creative ideas about something that would maybe potentially, if we can make it work, have some green space for the Hartford Road for your needs as well as have a dry field. So we're very open. We just had this conversation the other day. Yeah. Neither of us.
No, he wasn't in the meeting before, so he was sitting right next to us. Yeah, so you understand what we're trying to create.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's important that, I mean, if you go back and look at original plans was to build an athletic complex out here. That wasn't factored in any of those things. I think the stadium doesn't take away from the development that you're all proposing. The stadium brings an amenity that really and truly the school needs, but also Baltimore City Rec and Parks need. Like one of our biggest challenges, we don't have a track. Our track program we use on a daily basis. So the benefit here, as Allison stated earlier, was the location. That's when I was talking when the coach was speaking earlier, is that as long as we wasn't trying to put a stadium in the middle of the green space, and which we clearly understood that it was more moving towards the schools, then we do have that green space that we can really benefit. Because currently, if you look at it, there's 4 athletic fields there. I think long term, maybe you turn all that just to green space and you have the stadium, those things. But those are the kind of things that we as an agency is looking at, is how do we improve green space around our city? And we do understand the many different needs and how we keep engaging the community and having these conversations. And I think that's the importance of tonight's meeting. And I think we're really getting good feedback to start to look at some different locations, but also keeping in mind that we do want to we want to protect the green space. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'll bring the mic to you.
Hello. So I have a few questions, 2 questions. My first question is, with what we're trying to build, and this is to the young lady who just spoke, what is the fear? I'm gonna say, do you have the concern?
Okay.
First, do you have children? First.
Oh, no, but I fought for all y'all schools for the kids.
Great.
Okay.
So, in saying that, what is the concern, or what do you think the challenge would be to have this created for the kids that have been waiting so long for this to be built, well before REACH even came across the street? Because this was supposed to take place across the street at Lake Clifton, we did not get it. So if you fought for us, to hear you speak on...
Pause. I didn't say I don't want the school. I don't want the school to have this building. I'm not saying that. It's about placement for us. You think I'm against the football? I want my kids that are in the middle of my street playing football have a place to play football.
Right, so why wouldn't we factor that into what is going on as far as the real estate is concerned across the street in that area?
And not to be rude, but she didn't cut you off when you were speaking.
I'm gonna leave that there. That's just for thought. That's just for thought. I'm gonna leave it right there.
So can I just say?
Saying that we didn't
All right,
want
so See, so
Right.
we want to be productive in this meeting. We're here to be, right, for each other, right? But, and so what we would hope is that the questions will be pointed at either myself, Allison, or Cindy about the project. We want to stay away from the, I understand your
Right, but I also want to make sure that we are in the same, on the same page, because to hear something like that, I don't want somebody on the higher up to hear something like that, and now they want to alter what we've been trying to meet about when it comes to this meeting. So that's just a thought, it's not to be confrontational with anybody. However, my question as far as when it comes to recruiting, because I know Baltimore City can take a very long time when it comes to recruitment, and there are multiple people that have to approve this in the recruitment chain, right? So is there a timeline, we say we're starting recruitment in 2023, that recruitment line, if one person don't agree, that really could take a very long time. So is there a window for recruitment to be done so that it doesn't delay all of the other timelines that are, set?
Great question. You want to handle that?
I'll take
There you go.
So for the design procurement, we're actually going to use, we have what's called an on-call list, which is a list of vendors that we deal with on various projects, and so there's some mechanical engineers on there, there's some civil engineers on there. So we're actually going to use one of those to expedite that design procurement process right there, because if we go right to one of those on the list, we don't have to put it out for public design. Like, it definitely shortens the period of time for that. Yeah, because it's already, those people have already met the qualifications to be able to do this kind of project. So they can just, put in a proposal on the project, and then we can award it. So that cuts a huge amount of time out of the design procurement.
Yeah, so when we talk about the bidding, right, or the contract, are we being compared to, let's just say, a Merrill field or a Dunbar field when it comes to expenses? Because I also know with procurement, that is something that is factored in as well. Let's just hypothetically say one of the contractors come and say, I don't know, $50 million. But somebody else come in and say $60 million. Are they also looking for the lowest bidder to determine how long that would take as well?
So once it's designed, right, the design creates a set of specifications and documents that any contractor that bids on it has to meet, right? So then it goes out for public bid. That does mean that anybody has the opportunity to bid on it, but they have to meet within those specifications. So they're bidding apples to apples. They're not bidding apples to oranges. So we have a budget set aside for it, and that budget is actually based on the pricing that we're seeing right now for the same types of fields going in. So we're not expecting, crazy things happen. I can just say, we'll just be very frank, crazy things can happen, right? But we're not expecting any pricing that's going to be higher than the budget we set on it. And by putting it out for public bid for construction, that does tend to bring in tighter pricing because people are competing for that contract. With a bid price like that, once the bids come in, we agree that the price is good, and then it goes to the lowest bidder that meets the as long as they've met the specifications that the drawings and the specs have indicated that they have to meet, it goes to that bidder, and then it just has to go to the board for approval. So again, we're trying to expedite that timeline and how long it takes to do that process.
And just one other thing I would say to that is that at that budget, like the 3.4 million, that's one of the more expensive fields built. I can't think of a field that's been this price. It's partly because things get more expensive, but because it has the full track, it has the bigger stands, it is one of the more expensive fields to be willing to build. If not me. Yes.
I need the mic when you start talking.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I forgot.
I know, I'm just trying to follow the whole thing.
I appreciate it.
No problem, thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of the people that did come out the first time and clearly see that there is some movement quickly. I appreciate that. That came to the last meeting that we had. But I had a few questions about the field. One of the questions was, is the field going to be equipped to handle all the sports that the school has? Lacrosse, football, soccer. Will the field be marked in that such? Because when I speak, yes, no, yes.
People, sorry.
I got to see your hands.
Sorry.
Okay. Because I can speak for all the alumni when I say this, we just don't want some green space outside. We want all the bells and whistles we was promised 5 years ago. We want everything we were supposed to get. Because if we should have had the first field in this city, period. Because over across the street, it disturbs nothing. So, again, we just want to make sure not just getting a field to shut us up. We want the best field that you can possibly give us to shut us up.
And I think real quick, and I know Mike would have, but, and Allison kind of hit on this as well. As Allison spoke about earlier, in the original plan, we was building a field directly across from the church. It did not have a regulated track. Mayor Scott came in and said that was not what he wanted to invest in. He immediately said we need to reevaluate the location. So now we're getting an 8-lane track, which, if I'm not mistaken, most of the school system's tracks are 6 lanes. You get an 8-lane track, right? So that's something that you're getting that most schools won't have, so you can expand on, and I think the track coach will appreciate that. And it's a turf field. And I mean, it's gonna be a high quality field. And every conversation I've had with Cindy and with Allison, we all have the same common goal, right? And that everyone in this room, we want to build a facility that we all can be proud of, but our kids gonna be proud of because they're gonna be able to call something home. So I just really want everybody to understand is that this is just not, we just want to check a box. We spoke about this, we met about this, we've gone through the city's process, and only to answer your question quickly, that's why we decided the school process will probably be a little bit more fluent and faster than going through our current process. And that's why we're partnering with school and the funding is going to school.
And it also partly took a while, and part of the reason it took a while was the change about the location and wanting to have the full track, and then also making sure we have the resources. That is a significant investment. We couldn't build that by ourselves, they couldn't build it by themselves. So it took us together trying to identify the resources to make it happen.
Good evening. My question may lead into what you just finished with, why I took so long. You mentioned having a conversation with Mayor Scott. How long has Mayor Scott been in office?
But after this conversation with Mayor Scott, ma'am, then we had to start looking at where we're going to move it to. And then 2, we actually had designed the field at Reed Church. And so now we got to bring these same designers back out to start looking at other options. But when we originally started this process, schools and us was working together because the current administration at that time wanted us to expand on our existing location. So we invested a lot of time in the Reed Church location. So there's a transition process. And then as Allison stated, is that once we identified the bigger scope that we were talking about, we had to make sure that we had the resources before we can secure a contract to come and do work, to design something, and then we can deliver on that project as well.
Once it was realized that Reed Church wasn't an acceptable field to use or site to use.
It didn't have a full track, yeah.
Again, how long has Mayor Scott been in office? Like, why did it take so long for this school to finally get here, where we are tonight? And looking at the design process, it doesn't show, I know we said there's no lights, so I guess they're gonna have 8 lanes of dark. And restrooms.
Yeah, we don't have resources to put restrooms in.
Oh, so we're gonna go into the puddle and the drain out.
No, ma'am, we have porta potties.
We have porta potties and we don't lights again. And we don't have the resources for the lights in. We're gonna put the conduits in so people can put them in later. But we do not have the resources to put the lights in. Many of our fields do not have lights. That's not unusual.
I know one of them in Dunbar. That's probably not like.
I didn't say none of our fields.
No,
have lights. I'm saying that many of our fields.
That's right across the street from residential neighborhood.
Oh, it wasn't anything about, I mean, it was a resource question.
It seems like our kids still need to show them in the city.
Again, this is the most, as far as I know, this is the most expensive field we've ever built. So, it is.
Because I do know that water plays a big factor. So is the water, it being accommodated so that it could be
drains towards sunlight or away from the field, is that the bulk of where this is coming from? Because if we're getting the most expensive field and yet don't have exactly what Mervo, Dunbar, or anybody else has, where is the bulk of the expenses? If it goes back to this question, that we won't have, we just have an 8-track and a football field.
You can take one of those lanes and give us lights off the track.
No.
So I just want to say we have tons of folks here, we have tons of questions. So Cindy gave you all of our answers, and I see a couple hands too. So I want to make sure we get as many people as possible.
Just to try to briefly answer the question of, there's a lot of costs, there's a lot of implications to the cost, the reason why costs are, but to be honest, one of the biggest one is that costs have risen between 35 and 50% in the last 2 years. So this is the most expensive field because, 2 years ago, it might have been cheaper, but we didn't have the resources then either, especially as one or the other. So it wasn't until we could pool everything together that we could even come up with enough money to even start it and get that process going. Because it's a turf field, you have a huge first cost, which is the installation cost of a turf field. That is a significant, the biggest expense there. That's why some of our fields are still just grass fields. Several of those high schools that we mentioned earlier are still playing on grass fields or not turf fields. Because when you do a turf field, everything for the stormwater management has to be underground. So yes, that is a cost. However, it creates a much better playing surface and it's a much better field long term. So that's why we really wanted to invest in doing a turf field here and not a grass field.
My question is, how do y'all design a field that is supposed to be for our children and our sports? These children practice until 6:30 at night. It's dark. It's going to be the same situation that we're dealing with now, driving cars up on the lawn and shining the light. That's not safe for none of us, because I go out there too. So how can we not have lights and y'all say that y'all giving us something that we're supposed to have? That's not safe. We have to go out there, they have to go out there, and they have to practice. They practice until 6:30. It's dark at 6:30.
We don't have the resources to do it. A number of schools have to deal with fields that don't have lights, and they have to figure out how to put the practice in. That is not unusual to this field. Sure.
Yeah. I'm just gonna find out the cost for the lights in the bathroom so that we can, okay? I'm gonna get the cost of the lights in the bathroom so that we can come up with an advocacy plan or I'm with,
I just want to get them what they say, because they pay the bills for them, and if they say that you can't have lights, because I don't know.
I'm not super proficient in like turf versus grass, but isn't grass safer than turf? So why are we spending more money on using turf and whose idea? Like why did
turf is generally considered it's generally considered a better, you guys can speak to it better than I, it's better safe, it's a better playing field, it lasts a lot longer, it's much more durable.
Because it's more expensive, but what about the safety? That's what I'm saying, if grass is safer, I mean,
I don't know, I'll be honest, I hear your point, but I'm not sure if there's been a lot of research that prove that natural grass fields are safer than turf field. But what she's definitely saying is that where there's times where you may not be able to play on a natural grass field if it's heavy rain, you have a proper drainage system where you will still be able to play your games on a turf field.
But then they can't play it there.
I'm sorry, what now?
But then they can't play it, it's in the evening, right? And then also, or they play early, they get out of school earlier, and the families can't play. People can't be there, because they have to play earlier because of
But the current field doesn't have. So it will be along the same line as some coaches' the current schedule is, but you're in a better facility. I'm just trying to understand.
It's actually not better if it doesn't have lights.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not really better.
The current field has a lot of challenges. So it is it's going to be a turf field that is going to be even and smooth, and it's going to have a track around it. It's going to have stands that you can hold to the spectators. So it's going to be a far superior field. I realize it does not have everything that you want.
It's not,
No,
it's not
we-
the one that's a need, a need. Those lights are a need. No, we have to go out there. Sometimes I have to take off and my husband, so we can go down there so those children can stay. That's really not our job. That sports is connected to the school. That field is connected to the school. Why should we be out there in the dark? Let alone not have a bathroom. How can we have a game and expect anybody to come and not have a bathroom? Because we had some problems over there, guess what? The homeless people put y'all in, we couldn't use them. So it just doesn't sound better. It sounds like we're getting something, but that's not better. Just because that over there is hard, you can't just show them something that's lackluster just a step above and tell them it's better, because it's not. I appreciate the field, I'm sure the children will too, but also with some lights on it.
So, we can get, what we'll do is we can get a price, and get an estimate for the lights, so that we can then bring that forward. Maybe the Alumni Association can help raise, maybe the city, you know, there's a variety of sources, maybe we can help raise the money to be able to pay for that, and then they can go in, and at the same time, it's like there's about a year, which could be used to raise that money, once I get there. So I'll get a price.
The lights in the back.
And that, we got it, I will that too. Yeah, sorry.
All right, we'll start one at a time. We got a lot of questions.
Okay, so my question, I'm not sure what your name is, ma'am.
Allison Perkins Cohen.
Sorry.
Allison Perkins Cohen.
Okay, Ms. Allison, I keep hearing you say over and over again that other schools don't have lights, other schools don't have this, other schools don't have, I don't know, not trying to be funny, but we live in the same city. So we do know that every field that has a turf field that was built with lights, at least 90% for the school systems. You have your Pattersons, you have your Polys, Dunbars, Mervo, City, they all were turf fields with lights. So there is, I'm not, City does it, they have lights? So like I said, 90% of the fields are built. 90% of these fields are built, but you're sitting here selling us a turf field with no lights like that's the norm. It's not. When you go to turf fields, it's not the norm. So we're not going to accept that as the norm from you, saying that, hey, everybody else has to deal with it too. So what we're saying is, and I appreciate the young lady saying, hey, she's going to look into it and see, but the lights are important for a lot of reasons, and one is safety, period. Because you wouldn't go outside right now and play in that park right now by yourself with no lights, or with anybody else. So we're asking for the basics. A turf field and lights is basic. You know, so I just wanted to say that part because, you know,
So the other fields, the other schools that have lights are Frederick Douglass, Mervo, Poly, and Dunbar. And
turf fields.
the others don't. The others
Name
don't.
me any other turf field that other than those, please. Just name any other turf field. Forest Park has lights.
City's a turf field without lights.
I'll wait.
Ben Franklin is a turf field without lights. City's a turf field without lights.
So you just named 5 fields and 1 down.
All right, so I want to still be able to get to some of the questions that we have, and I want to be able to get to this awesome student who wants to ask us a question.
How y'all doing? I'm class of 2026. I'm a freshman right now. I'm a freshman on varsity. Our playoff games, we didn't have a generator. Our locker room was cold. We used our flashlights after practice to undress and put our clothes on. It was cold. We were outside, dark at night. We couldn't see anything, so we couldn't run over our plays. We were a couple of weeks in when our generator completely cut off and we couldn't get it back on. Our backup generator didn't come on. All we had was each other. We didn't have like any nice equipment, but we still went into regionals. We had a bye our first week. We beat the team, and then we went into regionals. We didn't need nice equipment or anything like that. All we had is each other. How are you guys gonna fix that? Because our backup generator cut off, our regular generator cut off, and we were dark. We were in the dark. How are you guys gonna fix that?
So we talked about your current location, and there was so Cindy knows more specifics than I do, but the power got cut off because the power was coming from the old Clifton building, and there was water in the building, so BGE thought that it was no longer safe, and so they cut it off. We did not know until after the fact that it had been cut off. So we're in conversations with BGE now to make sure it does not happen during your season again. That's why that's why you're using flashlights, because the power was cut, there was no power to that area. So we're working with BGE now. We had a conversation with them today. We have a meeting on Friday to make sure that you have power next year. But thank you. You're right. It's not acceptable.
I have something that's directly correlated to what the young man said. We keep talking about comparable, and at this point and at this level, we don't want to be comparable. We want to be competitive. And these kids cannot keep up. They cannot be competitive. They cannot go to the next level if they're holding flashlights, if they're worried about being cold. We don't want to be comparable. It's time for them to be able to be more. And if we're at a starting point now, it would be different if we were in the middle of this. We're at a starting point now. So we're at a point to be able to say and listen to more than just developers. Like, I don't know who the planning team is, but it should consist of the developers, the children, the coaches, the parents. There should be a team at this point, because it looks like we're still at the bottom. We haven't started anything. But we want our children to be competitive, not comparable.
So we want them to be competitive too. That's why we're building the new field. The field that's over there now is not what it should be for young people. That is a fact. And
That's
so
correct. But my point is to say that this school doesn't have this. That's not the point. We don't want to compare. We want our children to compete at a higher level.
Yeah.
So if that means lights, if the city doesn't have it, that's good for them. We don't want these boys going into the regionals without lights. That's what we're saying.
Why was the school, when the school was being built, had a field, built working with, during the process of building the school?
Yeah, that is a good question. If you remember, this building was built originally, as you mentioned, it was going to be built in Lake Clifton. Remember, the school was going to be renovated at Lake Clifton was the original plan. The cost of that was determined to be prohibitive, and so it was cut out of the plan, remember? And it was cut out of the plan. The solution that was identified that was more affordable was to build it in this building. So this was not the original plan, it was to build it in this building. At that time, the budget that was put aside was to renovate the building, not to renovate the field. And so that's why since then we've been trying to build a field, because the money that was put aside, the original 21st Century Buildings Plan, a number of schools got cut out of it because the Maryland Stadium Authority's original estimates of how many buildings could get built from it was wrong, and so a number of schools fell out of that original plan. This was one of those schools, and so then the community helped make sure that this building got built, but it was on a very tight budget. That's why the building was built for a tight budget, and it did not include fields. So we've been working since then to correct that. They were earlier in the plan. They were not cut out when those cuts were made, when that change was made. So there was also, remember, that was a 10-year plan, if you recall. Originally, we thought we were going to build through year 3 or year 4 of the plan. We ended up only building 2 years because those original estimates were wrong. So there's 8 years of schools we didn't get built at all. So this was kind of a compromise in between, where there was a building was built, but it didn't have money in it for the fields.
Didn't get built because all the mayors were stealing money. I just feel like everybody needs to get lights that they need to wait till everybody go around and then say it's money in the field. Just crack them out real high. I know, I hope like it's definitely not gonna change anytime soon, but the price of money is like skyrocketing. Man, it's like y'all saying that we get a better field, but really we're not getting the same field that the others get. And so it's like we get the same field, but it's man, that's all it is. That's all it is.
The health material is higher, so the investment they were making was the same as previous years, but at a higher cost. Then you go back to this.
Actually, I want to speak to something that is and tangible. I was at Lake Clifton in its early years. One of the hardest things that any school does, that a new school does, is create a culture. In this school, one of the things creating a positive culture is the success of the athletic teams, despite the fact that we have deplorable conditions, despite the fact that the track is more of a liability than the track, despite the fact that the stadium looks like it's ready to fall down. The message that we send to children is important. When they opened, it was state of the art. It was the largest high school in the country. It made history as the first high school where busing didn't mean that black kids went out to the outskirts of white neighborhoods. White children got bused here. There. The bottom line is, creating a positive culture in a school is very difficult. Doing this halfway is not going to make amends for the mess that's out there right now. I don't know how to say it in a more gentle way, because it's not a gentle topic. And it's a topic I can say much more easily than many people in this room. A, I was there. B, I can speak to the race issues much more easily. And second and thirdly, this is something that has to be addressed. Has to be. So they say they need lights. I coached. I taught history, but I coached. And when I came out, I coached in the building because I had a swimming team. When I came out at night, the stars and the moon were out. We were in the middle of a public park, and this is close to 50 years ago. So when they speak of safety, it doesn't matter whether you're in Baltimore County or Baltimore City. Lights are sacred.
So I appreciate that. I mean, we're open to looking at anything, including we could look at the track idea that somebody mentioned about 6 lanes instead of 8 to see if that saves enough to do lights. I mean, I don't know that it does. Pardon? Oh, so we can't do that. Okay, sorry. So anyway, we're open to doing anything. I will say this. We have fought, all of the community has fought to get the resources that Baltimore City needs for years. We still don't have those resources. So that's why there is a lawsuit against the state to make sure that we get the resources we need. All of our buildings should look like this building. All of our schools should have fields that have all the things that you're mentioning. I don't disagree with you about anything. We have to have these kind of investments in the schools. We don't have them because we don't have the resources that we should from the state. That's why we're suing the state currently. I mean, the Bradford lawsuit to make sure that we get more additional resources. In the meantime, we have to take the resources that we have to invest in as best we can, and so that's why we invested them in the neighborhoods that we did through the 21st Century Buildings Plan. But it's not sufficient. I'm not going to ever sit here and tell you what we have for our young people is sufficient, because it's not. What we should have is a lot more resources for our young people.
I know that y'all said that y'all would look into the pricing to see how much the lights will cost, and maybe if we had to, we could use some, find some angel people to help us, or maybe do some fundraising. If they did add the lights, would it mess up the timeline for the design, for the build?
We're putting the conduit in already for the lights, so the electrical part will be there, and so that is part of the expense, is putting that in there. It's not the full expense, you still have to put, the lights up. But they might, they made the lights, we wouldn't be able to deliver exactly. I mean, I guess you were saying earlier, we need like a year, we need a clear source of resources within the next year in order for it not to be delayed, the lights, so that's
So how long would it take y'all to get the numbers on the light?
Oh, that one time.
I'll work on it, I would say 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you give that to when you're finished? Because if we need to find funding, everybody is speaking up, like, I know a lot of people that signed that petition online because they care about the children. They might not be able to be present all the time, but if we actually got out there and got the funding, it could be done, as long as we had enough time, because it sounds like, you said like 5 times, we ain't giving you lights. Heard it off the video. But we need lights. Just putting them out there is not good enough. And I had not just my two children, but all the football team, the track team, the shot puts, lacrosse, like, my kids do all sports, so guess what, we're always out on the field all hours of the night. That's why I can attest to the dogs, it's dark out there. And we just want to be safe, and I don't think it's a lot to ask for, like, I
It's
don't
not a lot
wanna
to ask.
I'm not nitpicking, I just would like them to have some
No,
drinks.
I agree. Every field in the city should have lights. It's not an argument with you about whether they should, it's an argument about whether we have, it's not an argument, but my challenge is I just don't have the resources. And part of the challenge is like, we should have the $3.4 million budget. The MOU we have also has, if costs are higher than that because of current escalation, then we take turns and who's gonna pay for the next 150,000, for the next 150,000, just for the field that we have, let alone the lights.
Is
So
it possible to find a grant that would make it like, seeing as though it's in the community?
it's possible we can find a partner.
Right, I think it's great to utilize the existing community associations, utilize your council folks, to say, hey, we as a school, we as a community want to utilize grant resources. There's a lot of foundations, there's big corporations that will do things, but you have to have an entity that will take part.
That's the problem, association, he's sitting right here, he's not that, that's the problem.
So there's more than one community association in this neighborhood. There's more than one community association, and you have your council person right about it. So I think
it's not possible, like, we could figure it, like, I think this is a major school that people are invested in, and so I think it's not possible, but it is, like, we can't do it. I don't think we're gonna identify a resource.
And I believe we can do it because of all of what would need to be done versus the electric part of it is being done for us. So finding the material and getting the grant.
Next question, sustainability. Will y'all pay for the lighting that we put out there?
Oh, if you like, maintain it or replace it. If the lighting was in here, we had the lighting in there, right?
So-
The question was, can we help maintain it if it was there? If they were able to get a donation to get the lights.
And the lights are not, because what we would use is Musco lighting. Musco lighting comes on a 25-year warranty, which means anything goes wrong with the light, Musco fixes for that 25 years but it's a higher quality light, it's better control, you can control the light system from your telephone, turn the light system on, you can program. But that's what we're doing now in all of our parks, but it's a really high quality LED lights. The other positive with this is light technology has improved significantly over the years. If you know back in the day, there used to be light pollution where you knew miles away that you was actually coming up on the stadium. Now the way the lights are projected is more down at the field and not into disturbing communities, which is something that's been improved as well.
Yeah, I think we have a question.
So we are in the heart of the city, right? So I know these football field practice, we ain't got no protection. So these kids, you know what I mean, they shooting each other, they protecting themselves. Are we gonna protect them? So the lights is not really just to protect them, it's even when they need an outfield, whoever coming on the field. Cause I've seen them in many little football games, people come in, they get wild. So let's try to protect these kids and stop trying to let them protect themselves. He just said that they don't get them.
Pardon, say that last part?
Little kids that they only have that brothers, right, but they got us too, don't they? No. So that's the lights. And that's it. I mean, it ain't gonna cost nothing but a life. You want put a light on that? I got.
I'm with the Lakers, like 2005, played basketball, played football, and it's like, the field been the same since 2005, and it's like, we had to deal with a lot of adversity going in, like, they told us in the 11th grade that we had to stop drinking water for the 3 years, that was lead poison, so it's like, we've been getting this stress, it's like all the time, we do right by the kids, like, it's funny, but it's the truth though, bro, like, we really drinking messed up water. And they didn't tell us till we was in 11th grade to stop drinking. And it's like, do not administrators, but do the people who are higher up people who really, really care about the kids, or they just care about lining their pockets.
At the end of the day, the lights benefit everybody in this room over there. You understand what I'm saying? Parks and Recs can rent longer. They can rent, everybody can use it longer. Oh, I'm sorry. Parks and Recs can rent longer. Everybody can use the field longer outside of the school. So it's an investment as well for the city. It's not just something you're giving to school. So everybody who's putting their money up can also benefit from the lights because you now have longer usage of an area that you would have to shut down a lot earlier. So, and I just want to be clear, we were okay with being the first and the biggest high school in the nation in the 70s over across the street. So we're okay with being the first state-of-the-art high school here to set that tone so you can start building the rest of them.
I would love to. Join the lawsuit with us. Be a plaintiff.
During the last meeting, it was explained that at one point, there was a green light for a field when the school was renovated. There was a green light for a field to be put in. And somebody stopped.
Yeah,
It was money put aside, right?
It was money put aside, and we were told that there was a greenfield that was going to be.
You was in there, come on, what they say? How much money was put
The
aside?
reason why it was taken away is because Mr. Richard.
I thought the mayor sold the money.
No.
Sold the money from the school, it said.
No, wasn't stolen, but the community, the president community association, didn't agree with that being done, which is a part of the delayed process as well. So you are right, it did say that, I just don't think you're right. It did say that.
Well, that would be.
Because Coach said aye.
Oh,
Coach said aye.
okay,
Coach said
all right,
aye.
we did. Okay. So, the only thing that I know, I was not there, so I missed that conversation. The only thing that I know is that when the Lake Clifton building was cut from the plan because we did not have resources to do it, the compromise again was this building, that this building would be renovated, just the building, for $40 million. That was the agreement that was made in order to be able to do a compromise kind of, but the $40 million was for the building alone. It ended up costing more than that, but it did not include the field. So unless there was, conversation I missed it, that's what I know about it.
Question. Yeah, if Lake Clifton, and the athletic program is part of the school function. Why build a school and not the facilities for the high school, when the high school already had what they had? And then you come over here, you don't have nothing over there. I went to Lake Clifton, graduated 84, class 84. Yes, indoor school, we had one of the best indoor swimming pools besides Borough. We was one of the best. We had the football field, I played on that field many nights in practice over there, the rest of the lights would come over there and everything. Two gym basketball gym, girls and boys gym basketball. Like that, and we had afternoon locker rooms and bathroom at the zeros. Get over here, one, we don't have a football field, we don't have a track for a track team. All right, so the track team got to practice, like I call the Rocky part. The Rocky got this shape, he goes to the wilderness. That's how I call it the wilderness. And that's how they run around and get ready for track.
Go ahead.
Baseball.
We run around the school, there's no track, we run around the.
That's what he's saying.
Baseball, we had two baseball fields and softball fields, we had all that. Now our sports programs don't really have the space for it. For them to play on. Come on now, we had our gym, I mean, I appreciate what we got, but our gym is really undersized for the program that we do here. The football field definitely, we definitely shouldn't have had the field built when everything, like I say, Falls Park got there, and I think we was built before, we was done with Falls Park, whatever. We was all in the same plan, we were just like, here behind each other. They just built redid Calvin's behind my house. Tore down the state law, so, and then after us, 2 years after us.
They were, so again, this building was, I don't remember what year it was in the plan, but because Lake Clifton was so big, to everybody's point, it was the largest high school in the country when it was built. It was a large building, and it was in bad shape. So to renovate it would have been very, very expensive. That's why it was cut out of the plans at that point in time again, because the original estimates of what could be built with the resources that come through the 21st Century Buildings Plan was, I think, 35 to 45 schools. And the estimates were based on
And you
incorrect
say-
numbers, and so then it was cut, there was numerous schools cut out, including like Clifton, and so then this building was a compromise. It was never, so it was put in at a tight budget of $40 million, and so that's why it
When
was.
you saying that it costs a whole lot, well, if I'm not mistaken, around 97, or before they rebuilt, remodeled Dunbar, we were supposed to get remodeled at the same time, and when it was up and running, all had to be mined, probably 25 million to remodel. Over there, the alumni from down that way, whatever, worked their way, took our money and finished up Dunbar. And don't shake your head.
No, I just don't know. I mean, you could be right, I don't know. Yeah.
And let us dwindle down years and years and years. And every time when I moved away out of town, I'd be calling me out here, the school sinking. I've been here for long, I've never seen the school sink yet.
Go sing, you said that was.
They were sinking at the building on top of it. And the money, if they had the money back then when they was remodeling Dunbar, and we both got remodeled around the same time, but our front and stop, and they didn't finish.
Yeah. I don't know, that way predates me, I just know the history of that, so I believe you, I just don't know the history of it.
But and I've been dealing with school, I'm 58, I've been doing this for 40 years, as a student and alumni.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm telling you, I never hate to see how my home, I went to here with the junior high school. All right, my home is gone because the city ain't take the time to help remodel and keep it up. And they knew what the size is. You had, that school was big enough that you put a plan and put the money in, and you had on one side, you the high school, was too big for the amount of students to go to high school. You took one side, made it up elementary school, middle school to feed the high school. And they kept that facility up there, we could still be over there. But y'all, you didn't see it. We had a facility, a gym facility that we go rent and do. Just last night up in Morgan, city championship at Morgan, we had a facility that could cover all that and bring the money back to the school system. Y'all go to rent, y'all go and spend money to rent other facilities. Well, that money can come back to the school, to the students. You see what I'm saying? And y'all have the facility, right here in the city, right in the heart, right here, right across the street. We have the facility. All you have to do is put the money in and fix it up. And they did, and then the football field, because we redid the football field, like redid that grass field down on Orleans Street, on Ryan Street, and put a turf field in there, lights in there. That was grass field, with no lights, when we played down there. That was a grass field. Sugarcane field was a grass field with no lights. And everything. So, I can't understand why we can't get it. And you keep saying light, and then you say the light fixtures is going to be in the ground. So what's the problem? Get the poles and put up there? Come on now, that's a small thing. That's a small
We
thing.
definitely appreciate everyone taking the time.
That's a small thing. All you have to do is like you put up the 3, 4, 4 million to do what you're going to give us. You could put that in there and tell us how much it's going to cost. Don't wait. We should have to wait 2 weeks and find out how much it's going to cost. Just to put the poles up and the lights on top of the poles. I knew the whole problem was the building and the whole thing, but you're saying you're going to have the electricity part already there. So the hard part is to put the poles up. Come on, man.
So again, I think we can certainly work with the community to look into options for, certainly work with the community to find options for, again, as Chief Burke Cohen discussed, those additional lights. And I would certainly love to have additional conversations. But I do want to start to close this out for the evening. Thank Coach Money for inviting us. And I hope that we have additional opportunities to come out and discuss these options with the community.
So I just want to say thank you everybody for coming out, for your passion. Obviously, it's been a frustrating experience. We hopefully, you see there's a plan in place, which is a little bit better. I hear you on the lights. Okay? We're going to work hard to get the lights and the bathrooms, okay? We may need all year out, all right? But I understand that that is a very essential piece of what we're talking about. So we have a plan, we're gonna stick with the plan, we're gonna keep you updated. Last time we met, you said we wanted to meet maybe, every month, just to sort of give updates moving forward. And I'm still committed to doing that, if that's something that you want to do. Because I think, again, I call them accountability meetings, right? It may be that the school system isn't here, but at least I can give you an update, right? And I'm happy to do that, and then they'll come when there's significant updates to give. Especially when that consultant is hired, he's going to need, she is going to need to come and talk with folks. So there's going to be an ongoing process. So I'm just grateful that we're seeing, a lot of the same people from the last meeting, some new faces. I'm grateful. Again, I'm glad I'm your councilwoman. I have cards here, and we will definitely stay in touch. Okay, this is huge. We absolutely need our field for our young people.
We also make sure we get the updates on the heating stuff being put back in the.
Yes, that's a great
Oh,
point
that's
too.
the-
For the temporary field.
Conditioning down and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Like, it's not football season, they're coming back together, right, about this time? And so like, they need to use those facilities, and that's the saddest thing to hear. I heard about it, but to hear them sit there, and say that they got through it. They didn't say they got it, they got through it, safety-wise with their brothers. They won, they got through the season just trying to lean on each other. And that's heartbreaking to have him sit there and say, basically, he got it out the mud. And we want to get our kids from having to say that. It's a struggle already out there.
Yeah.
We want facilities where they feel comfortable. That's heartbreaking. I had to keep myself from crying. To hear him say that he used his flashlight to get dressed when they cold. I know how I feel in the morning when my house is cold. I heard you turn that heat on. I could only imagine that. You know what I mean? Or after they're sweating, and they come in and now they have to change it to their clothes and they're still wet.
Yeah.
So that's really important. I would like to hear,
Absolutely, we'll keep you updated on it. These, because it's the BGE needs, it's the quality of the field, temporary. We've been in constant conversation with Morgan as well, to see if there's some opportunities there with them, so we'll.
How do kids get there?
Well, we have to have a shuttle, so, we're gonna work on all of that, absolutely. And that is one of the options, okay? So, absolutely, and I just think that these, meetings to help, keep us accountable is super important. And I'll just say, when I didn't go to school here, or high school here, I went to college here, but I ran track. So I understand how important it is to have a good track. I actually ran track on a dirt track, okay? So it's crazy. I also play basketball. Believe it, I'm short, but I play basketball. And play soccer. So obviously, the facilities for our young people is super, super important. So I'm so grateful for all of your advocacy. This is huge. So please, I have cards. We'll make sure everybody gets a chance to. Sir, you didn't talk, and then I'll courtesy the last word.
Before I leave, I'm an alumni from the State. I'm also a football coach. I wanted to leave you with 400 signatures of alumni that could not make it, over 500 signatures. For the coach, they want to be in support of the
Awesome.
field.
Okay. Thank you.
For gathering on that.
Thank you so much. And then we'll also, in those updates, keep you updated on what's going on with the building, and the art. Did I tell you the story about the art last time? I did. So the Morgan is taking the statue and the metal pieces and the mosaics we're working with the VMA to save. So I know that that's important too. So go ahead.
Ms. Odette, I just wanted to thank you, thank Coach Money, the alumni, all the representatives that came out, because this is what traction looks like. We didn't have this at the last meeting. And to see that it is some type of plan, because the first week we came, a couple of us said we didn't have any of this. So to see that this is going up, it's a plan and it's some traction. I just hope this kept up, but I just want to tell y'all thank you also. Thank y'all also, and thank y'all for being us all.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would love to, we have a special list for the
one big email.
Oh, it's like a
Every
email
email
account that you all, sure.
Yeah.
Do you have do you have? Okay, great. Well, you all have my card, but I'll send you an email and that, okay. And we'll stay in touch that way. Put money outside our page you all as well. But I'm glad that everybody can hear. So you'll let everybody know what's next month? Oh, yeah. You want it next month? So that's